Are you having trouble finding the right font for your brand? In this video, I'm going to walk you through my process to do just that, while giving you free guides and resources to help you along the way. Now before we get started, I want to let you know that you can download the font selection guide as well as the typography terminology guide from my website for free at brycetufts.com under the resources tab. The typography and fonts that you select for your brand can have a significant impact on how it's perceived. Now this process can be much more difficult than it appears. Many times we just select a font at random only to find later that it doesn't fit at all and it just doesn't look good. So let's start with the two terms that this video is centering around: fonts and typography. Knowing the difference between the two terms is going to help us a long way in choosing the right font and typography system for our brand. Now the definition of typography is the art and technique of arranging type to make written language legible, readable, and appealing when displayed. This includes selecting typefaces, point sizes, line lengths, line spacing, letter spacing, and adjusting the space between pairs of letters. Now the definition of a font is a digital file containing a set of graphically related glyphs, characters, or symbols. So the font we choose is just going to be part of the overall typography system that we put in place for our brand later on. Now a good typography system balances repetition and contrast. To have good repetition, we want all of our glyphs in our font system to have similar shapes. For contrast, there's actually 8 simple steps that we can follow. We can skip a couple font weights between our different text elements. We can change the hue of the type. We can pair uppercase words with lowercase words. We can double the point size from one text element to the next. We can increase the tracking, or the space between the letters. We can increase the leading, or the space between the lines of text. And we can pair different font types with each other. Common font types include serif, sans serif, slab serif, black letter, and hand letter. And lastly, we can mix and match several of these strategies to improve our contrast. If we found fonts that have good repetition and contrast, how can we be sure that they're the right fonts for our brand? Well, there's actually 4 questions that we can ask ourselves. Are the fonts we selected clear, or are they confusing? Are they interesting, or are they boring? Do they communicate the idea or the feeling of your brand? And are the details of the font right? This can be a difficult process to go through alone, so I'm going to walk you through how I select brand fonts. Now you can download the Illustrator template document that I will be using during this video for free on my website, brycetufts.com, under the resources tab. Once you open the document, it should look something like this. Now you can see that I've gone in and I've added my logo and my brand colors to each of these artboards, just so that I can tell what the fonts are going to look like once they're in place. You'll also notice that this document is split into 8 different artboards. Each of these artboards has a different font combination that I'm interested in exploring for the brand. However, you can change these combinations to be whatever font combinations you're looking into doing. Now, if we pull up one of these artboards, the serif and sans serif combination, you'll notice that I've selected a font that I feel pairs well with the logo. You might also be wondering where I found this font, and I'll show you. I prefer to use Adobe Fonts, and I'll show you how that works right here. Once you get into the Adobe Fonts website, you can go up here to Browse Fonts, and once that loads, you can look on the left side, and it will show you a series of filters that you can put on your search in order to find the fonts that you're looking for. What I'm going to do is look at the logo that I have designed for this brand, and then reverse engineer a font that I feel will pair well with it. So if we take a look at our logo, we'll see that we have sharp edges, we've got angles, and we have a high contrast between the thin and thick parts of the letters. These are all things that we're going to want to keep in mind when we're looking for a font to pair with it. So first things first, I have entered my tagline for my brand above so I can see what each of these fonts looks like when applied. Next up, I noted that I want to look for a serif font to pair with my logo. We can move down here to the properties section and select a high contrast font type. The other settings are great to have for other projects, but they just don't apply to me right now, so I'm going to leave them blank. As we scroll through, I'm already picking out a couple favorites, but I really settled on Budani as a font that reflects several of the characteristics of my logo and would pair well with it. Once I've activated the font in Adobe Fonts, I can simply switch over to my Illustrator program and plug the font in right above. You can now repeat this process with different font types and then pair them together to see what works best. Now if we go to the beginning of my document here, you see that I've paired a sans serif with a sans serif, and I've used the font Proxima Nova. Now I really like this font, I love the way it looks, but this combination just isn't very interesting to me. I don't see it working for the brand. Next up, we've paired a sans serif with a serif font. So I've selected Serenity as my title font and Carmina as my body copy. Now again, I like both of these fonts, but I just don't see this combination working well for the brand. Next we have a serif sans serif combination. So I've pulled Budani as my title font and I've put Proxima Nova as my body copy. I actually really like this font combination and I'm probably going to select it for our brand just because I feel like our copy is going to work really well with this. I really appreciate the way that this text works with the logo that we've developed, and I like the contrast between the body copy and the title copy. In this next section here, we've paired a serif font with a serif font. So once again, I've used Bodoni, but this time I have matched it with Carmina. I really like both of these fonts, but I feel like there's not enough contrast between them to be interesting. If we look at the next section, I've paired a slab serif with a sans serif. Now, I don't see the slab serif really working for us in this situation. I really like the font, but it just doesn't express the brand like I want it to. The next few combinations of sans serif, slab serif, and serif slab serifs are also not working for me. I just don't see this being an expression of the brand that's any use to us. Going through this brand exploration is incredibly helpful to me because now I know I've done my due diligence in seeing what fonts don't work for the brand and which ones work really well. Personally, I'm the most happy with this serif sans serif font combination, and this is what I'm going to be moving forward with for the rest of my brand. I can see Bodoni being a strong artistic expression of the brand, while Proxima Nova is easily readable and it pairs well together. And with that, we are done. Hopefully by the end of this video, you now have a good direction on where to go to select a font that serves your brand well. If this video was helpful to you, please leave a like so that it can help other people as well. And if you have any other questions about the branding process, please comment them below. Also, as I mentioned earlier, I have a library of free resources available on my website, brycetufts.com, under the Resources tab. There you can find workbooks, worksheets, guides, things to help you along your branding process and hopefully get you to something you like. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it helped you. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.